Well, that is how I ended my Valentine's Day. It was in the negatives for a daytime high on Thursday, and then Friday it got warmer, but we got a 30-mile-an-hour wind. And I had to work till 7 o'clock that night. So by the time I got home, everything had drifted. And the drifts are hard enough that I can walk on top of them without really breaking through. So when you've got a high wind like that, it basically turns the snow into rock. So this is where my truck stopped in four-wheel drive low. And I was supposed to be going to a swap meet this morning. I got inside and checked my messages, and some of the people, well, basically the only person I had anything for sure pre-sold to, told me that they had to turn around and go back to North Dakota to take care of an emergency with their goats. There was one that was giving birth and it wasn't going well, and the person who was watching their animals didn't really know what to do in that situation. So once I saw that, I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to go. I'm going to go in the house, have a couple drinks, and I will deal with this tomorrow. And now it's tomorrow. There's hardly any wind. It's already warm enough to where I only have to wear one coat. It's actually a liner for a coat. It's not even a coat. And the plan today, get all of this broke back open with the tractor once it's started. Try to get a roof on that. I'm going to try and get these corn stalk bales into the stag pens, which I got a question for you guys down south. When you say corn husk bales or corn shuck bales, is it literally a bale of just the husk? Or is it like we have up here where you get the stalks too? So all of this back here, I get to shovel out because I can't get back in here with the tractor because there's a pile of plywood right there for the shed. And just to give you an idea how deep the snow is, I am standing on the snow right now, and I'm able to put my camera at the top of this back wall, which is at 6'6" right here from the ground. You can kind of see, got some tracks there. You can kind of see that it's deeper, but again here, you know, we've been shoveling, and also the snow is actually drifting over there. And that's kind of a thing where if you move up here and you got a hand shovel or whatever, you want to watch how your drifts form, because most of the time they're just going to keep drifting shut. So you try to set it up in a way that you take the path of least resistance. Now originally I cut a path through here and it snaked along the back of this drift and came down along these pens. That drifted shut more than I expected, so then I went through here instead. And you can see this drift is about knee high. Quite a few tracks in here. I'm gonna have to set me some traps tonight, looks like. Everything made it through the storm. I just gotta dig it all back out. Well, it's about a week later from the video of my truck being stuck. Actually, I think it is a week later. Birds are chirping. The man on the radio says he thinks we're done with below zero temperatures for the season, which I hope he's right. And go turn everybody open for the morning. So, first off, apparently we're over 2,000 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. And, you know, the number continues to grow, and I'm always pleasantly surprised when I hit little mile markers like that, because my camera skills and whatnot are generally not that great. And a lot of the more recent videos have had this little emblem in the middle of them because my old laptop had issues, and so we ended up with another laptop gifted to us by a friend, and that one doesn't have Windows Movie Maker on it. So I had to download some video editing software, and the free version sticks that sticker on there. I mean, I could pay for it and get rid of that, but until I start making higher quality videos, it's kind of like, I don't really need that expense. So, this is what it looks like up here right now. That's all the snow that I pushed out of the way. You can see here how deep the snow is to the hard pack, and the hard pack is still several inches above the actual ground. And in the process of pushing the snow, I ruined my gate, so that's awesome. And we've got predators starting to come around because it's getting to be that time of year. So we're going to have to deal with that. I thought I'd check on these stags this morning and see how everybody's doing. There's one of the roundhead crosses. White hackle. These guys are going to get trimmed soon. Probably this weekend, actually. It's another white hackle. These birds are not very long-legged, and they're what you call low stationed. Station doesn't have really anything to do with leg length. It's more about how tall and upright a bird stands. So I'd consider those two to be low stationed. And I mean, you gotta remember too, I'm filming them from a downward angle. I think this is the one that got his beak kind of messed up in a wire fight. Had 3 of them this year that got damaged in wire fights, unfortunately. But none of them were very severe. And these are just the oldest stags that I'm holding back for myself to pick through. Once I end up making my selections, I'll be selling out of them. This guy here, he's pretty small, and he's got a lot of red in his breast. Probably not going to see it too well because the snow behind him kind of backlights it. Oh, you didn't get any bedding. We missed you. This guy here, I'm going to have to check his toe punches because if he's full Morgan, I think I'm going to use him. He's got some longer legs on him than everybody else, but I suspect he's got some gull in him just because of how he was built and his marking, so I'll have to check his toe punches. And speaking of gull crosses, Will, this is the one I was telling you about this morning. He's kind of an orange hackle. Let's get you away from the snow here, bud, so I can actually see you. I've got a darker one that I like better because he's bigger. But that's kind of a dilemma with breeding these birds, which I'll revisit here in a second. This is another roundhead cross stag. He's the darkest out of all of them. Most of them are spangled a lot louder, like my Morgans. And now we're into the adults. Looks like you didn't get bedded either. Sometimes you lose track of who you bedded and who you didn't when you're got everything covered in plastic, so I'll have to get those two today. Here's one of the brassy backs. They look a lot better with that snow, with that trim job. This is that hook toe. His first Morgan that we raised here. And we screwed his toes up in the brooder, I believe. I've talked to another guy who said that he had gotten a Morgan hen from the same source as me, and she was crooked-toed, and she passed that along to everything that she produced. One of my old roosters there. And we got this old boy here too. So, I had a question from one of our viewers about what to do with a mean rooster when you're handling them. I'm going to post some links to some videos going more in depth with that. I think a lot of it has to do with 2 or 3 really simple things. One, the temperament of the bird itself. You know, is it a high-strung, nervous bird? 2, is it a bird that comes from a line that gets mean a lot? 3, how much are you handling them? And 4, how are you handling them? I think that how you hold a bird makes a world of difference in how they act. Boys are getting all excited because I let the pullets out. As you can see, the plastic's been torn down by the weather. Been working on trying to get that back up, but it's proved difficult just with the high winds we've had here. What was it, last week, I think? We had wind up in the 30s, 30 mile an hour with gusts up to 50 mile an hour. But if you're holding a bird in a way that it feels like it's not secure, it's going to try to get away from you, and the harder you try to contain it, the more it's going to want to try to fight you to get away from you. And if you're holding it in a way that it feels like it's in danger, it's going to want to try to get away from you, obviously. But like I said, I'll post some video links dealing with how to properly hold a bird. And I've heard of some people, they'll put like a piece of a citrus fruit in their hand, and whenever that bird goes to strike, they'll put that citrus in their hand in front of the bird's beak. And personally, myself, I just try not to put up with a bird that is constantly wanting to bite me. And if I do have one that's that way, I hold him in a way that he's not going to get a hold of me very easily. I'll face his head away from me, away from my arm, or like this time of year, I've got a really thick coat on. This is the other brassy back. This is the darker one. Going back to that dilemma I mentioned with the gull crosses. So, the stag I like best is dark. He is Wheaten based genetically with what they call the mahogany gene, which darkens red. So, for the sake of showing, I would be better off breeding that lighter hackled male. But, number one, they've got the wrong leg color to be shown as an Old English. They should have white legs if I'm going to enter them as an Old English. They've got yellow. Number two, part of the reason why I like that darker bird is he's larger, and being as how most of my birds are fairly small, I think it would be better to breed a larger line in order to mitigate that. But you get them too big, you run into problems too. So then you just kind of got to ask yourself, like, am I going to keep both colors in the mix? Am I going to select one color over the other over time? I mean, it's not a pure line, it's a Gull Morgan cross, so I can kind of do whatever I want with it and set it as my own family. But if I'm going to keep entering them in poultry shows, it would be better off if I bred them to the lighter hackled birds. But then I'm selecting strictly for color. So the Gull Cross, I can just kind of make them my own thing and decide, hey, I really like this bird and I think it would benefit my breeding program, and I don't have to worry that it's a butcher or a claret or a muff or whatever, you know. I can breed just based on what I want, and it's a little less restricting. Now, from a marketing standpoint, that's kind of a stupid thing to do, I guess. because in this day and age especially, your customers want preserved pure lines, and a lot of new lines that come up and are developed are questioned as to, you know, the validity of them, I guess, in a way. Because if you're going to spend money, you're going to spend money on something that has a pedigree and a long line behind it, because you're going to have more certainty that you're going to get out of it what you want, regardless of what that is. Whereas if I just start selling these birds and say, well, they're my line of reds, first thing people are going to ask is, well, what's in them? And, you know, you start rattling off 2, 3, 4, 5 different bloodlines that are in them. They're going to, I don't want that, because there's too much potential for there to be bad genes in there because you've bred in all these other families, which I understand. And there's lots of stuff that I would like to breed, and I just don't have the room or the time or the money to mess with. And, you know, case in point, here the other day, I was talking to a guy about some Cuban Muff Hennies. Did I need them? Absolutely not. Did I want them? Absolutely yes. Why did I want them? Because they're cool. They're something I haven't had before. I've never bred Hennies, and I thought they'd be fun to mess with. But for the price that was on them, which, to be honest, I thought his price was extremely reasonable. It's just the cost of the shipping. It was going to be $220. So then I got to take a step back and say, hang on a minute, you know, do you really need these? Do you have the time and energy to devote? And part of that's just, you know, getting older, getting wiser, and saying, you know, you can't do all the things. You know, when I was a kid, I'd have 20, 30 different colors of Bantams, but I'd only have like one pair of this, one pair of that. And you don't get anywhere in a breeding program by doing that. I just have to accept that and figure out what I really want to keep messing with. And the problem is, I don't know yet. But I do know this year I'm probably going to have to be really picky on what I breed, because obviously I'm going back into work now. I have to get this shed finished, and we're also getting some pups for the farm, and we're gonna have to train them. And here we are, you know, it's almost March. We've got all this snow, which means I am not setting up breeding pens anytime soon. So, you know, do I want to do the same thing I did last year, where I had a bunch of stuff that was hatched off relatively late, and I don't want to do that. So things are going to have to get slimmed down, and I'm going to have to make up my mind on certain projects, whether they're staying or going. There might be some that, you know, I'm seriously thinking about not breeding any Morgans this year. And it's not that I don't like them, it's just that I feel that I have enough here with me held back that I can skip a year, and then if anything happens, I'm okay. I've still got birds to select from. One final thing I guess I want to sign off with is a friend of mine runs a channel called Springer's Birds. If you follow it, you might have noticed he hasn't posted in quite a while. And I reached out to him, and you know, without airing people's business, he's going through some hard times, some stuff in his life, and I'm sure he'd appreciate it if you'd keep him in your thoughts and prayers. You know, he's a good guy. He just kind of got thrown a curveball in life, and that happens to all of us. So, but I'm going to sign off for now. I'm sure I've rambled plenty, Everybody take care.